Welcome to Esoteric Talk, where we cover everything within the realm of spiritual mystery. Join me, astrologer, psychic medium, and frequency healer, Lydia Chiarenza.
And me, Rachel Talia, hypnotherapist, intuitive, and energy practitioner, as we uncover what lies beneath in today's episode of Esoteric Talk with AstroGnosis, hypnotherapy, and astrology.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 7 of Esoteric Talk. In today's episode, we talked the 2020 ingress of Mars Retrograde. We went into discussing this retrograde period from both a personal and collective standpoint, as well as other planetary happenings. So with that being said, let's hand it over to Rachel and get this discussion started.
Welcome to our number 7. It's our lucky 7. Hey, Lydia.
It is lucky 7. Hello, Rachel. How are you doing today?
I am super fantastic and tired. What about you?
Pretty much the exact same. Yeah, Rachel and I are trying to double fist coffee right now, which is ever so telling of Mars going retrograde about an hour ago.
Oh, seriously, it was an hour? I thought for some reason it was tomorrow. Great. Okay, that makes sense.
No, yes, it went retrograde about an hour ago at 28 degrees Aries.
So, for today's show, would it be a good idea to talk about Mars and all these lovely transits that are reflecting in our personal and collective lives?
Yes, that is the plan. Today we are going to talk about Mars retrograde. And as an astrologer, I'm going to be completely honest. Mars retrograde is one of the more sparse retrograde periods. We haven't even had a retrograde Mars period since 2018 when it was retrograde in Aquarius. And it's not to say that I haven't put a lot of thought into Mars retrograde. I have, from the standpoint of reading charts of people who have this RX within their natal chart. But on a collective standpoint, typically this isn't one that I want to focus on. However, this year that is entirely different due to the fact that we have Mars in Aries friggin' half of damn 2020, which is already an explosive time. But also it's square all of the prominent Capricorn energy in the sky. And so there's a lot going on, definitely.
So if we wanted to give some keywords just for some people, so we got Mars. So Mars is willpower, assertiveness, action, sexuality. What else do we got with Mars?
We've got overall energy, your drive, your ability to get up and go. Mars is our ability to take action. And in Aries, we're dealing with it in the most pure sense of the word. Aries phrase is I am. And so Rachel and I kind of came together and we were talking about this. And I was like, I feel like Mars in Aries, retrograde especially, is really going to emphasize or place a lot of focus kind of on our own individual impact in relation to what is going on collectively and how we can come together and kind of take that first step in order to initiate, which is very Martian, and assist kind of in changing these pre-established structures.
So would you also say that, in order to make a change in this world, it has to start on a personal level too? That we see all these things going on out in the world and all this conflict and aggression and, instability. Do we need to, is it beneficial to know even where Mars is transiting in your chart?
Oh, absolutely. Because being able to see where it's transiting in your chart, you're going to see kind of where within the next couple months, things are going to be kind of on pause for a little bit in relation to action. When we look at Mars, again, we're looking at our drive. We're looking at our ability to get up and take that first step, to take the initiative, to take action, and to make things happen. And Mars retrograde periods really bring into emphasis kind of this pause in relation to that. You can also see a pause in energy levels, a pause in your sex drive, anger in general. one thing that I notice as an astrologer with people who have Mars RX in their chart is a lot of times you'll see passive aggressive behavior, because that Martian energy, that frustration, the anger, the aggression, it's all geared inwards. So it's being reflected upon as opposed to being expelled outward, kind of, and ultimately projected onto those around you.
Well, it's interesting because I listened somewhere or heard somewhere that, people that have Mars RX natally, that they could have had lifetimes where there was an over-assertion of aggression. Like they were the warriors or they were the violent types or they, and so this lifetime, it's about being able to take that energy and be more introspective with it, but learn how to assert themselves in a more healthy way that's not so aggressive. I don't know. What's your take on that?
Oh, no, definitely. I could very much so see it from a past life perspective being like that, where there were lifetimes where that aggression or that anger or that frustration was potentially even used in a way that was, I want to say unhealthy. That's not really, I mean, that's a good way of putting it, but more so it was at detriment to those around them. And so they're bearing that karma within this life. But Mars retrograde within the natal chart, again, like you're seeing all of that being turned inward. Before these people even have the chance to get mad, a lot of the time, again, they're really reflecting on how utilizing that anger will be for them, how it will be experienced kind of by those around them. But there's a lot of inward introspection, again, in relation to anger and aggression.
Well, and that's the way it is typically with any retrograde, right? It's retrospective. It's being able to really reflect and take it in. And so when any of these planets and whatever they archetypally symbolize, then it's being able to assess how to use that in a constructive way. And I could see that, with COVID and quarantine and the political issues in the U.S. Pluto return, all that, there's so much pent-up aggression and anger and division. And so how do we deal with these feelings within ourselves in a healthy manner? How do we be able to feel this aggression and this anger and not blow up on people? But then also for those that tend to hold back, that tend to repress, how do they assert their will in a healthy way as well?
Yeah, so that's another thing definitely to point out too, as we are talking about RX natal individuals. People who have this retrograde within their natal chart will actually feel more comfortable during this time. They're going to feel a lot more comfortable with this kind of introspective, introverted Martian energy. So that's something to look forward to for those of you who do have Mars X. You're going to be okay with this. But yeah, from a collective standpoint, we're looking back to events that began to transpire around late August, largely because we're going to be dealing with, again, that kind of grand trinity of squares, ultimately, to the Capricorn planets that are transiting, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, and kind of what was going on around late August and how there's kind of going to be a completion point that's being brought on via this Mars retrograde period.
So for the cardinal signs, that's Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. Libra is going to have the opposition to Aries. So people from 15 to 30 degrees, right, with about a 5-6 degree orb of Libra, any planets there are going to feel that opposition with this Martian energy. And then Cancer and Capricorn, anybody with those planets from those degrees are going to feel the square. So how would you explain how to navigate like an opposition, somebody that has Libra and then also those squares?
Well, I definitely feel like Libra season this year, with us dealing with Mars being RX in Aries, Libra season is going to be intense completely, especially with that opposition to the sun. There's going to be a lot of push and pull between Mars in general is a selfish energy. Mars is drive, especially in Aries. Again, Aries phrase is I am. There's not a lot of room there for others in relation to the phrase I am. And so coming up against Libra, which is I balance, we are going to be tested in relation to the way that we relate to other people. And we're really going to be forced and pushed kind of to look at our actions, to consider whether or not we're being selfish, to consider whether or not we're being fair, definitely. But the same, again, you can say the same in relation to Cancer energy. Cancer and Aries don't see eye to eye typically due to the fact that Cancer is an emotional sign. It's an emotive sign, and it's a sign that's intuitive and caring. And Aries is not really thinking about your feelings. Capricorn, that's a big one, again, because those 3 squares are going to be posed. And the squares to the Capricorn energy, it's like the man. It's going up against the man. It's the individual against the man being the person in charge, i.e. the government, i.e. federal level stuff. And if you look at the way that Martian energy has been playing out already in general, look at all of the protesting that is going on in the world right now. There's a lot of individual action that has been, what is the best way of saying this? Taken at this point, I guess. And Mars retrograde is really going to force us to reassess and consider whether or not those actions are worth it. Capricorn's whole thing is usefulness. And so although our government and our establishment and everything that we have built and constructed on a public level is in the process of changing, at the same point, Mars retrograde is really going to push us to consider our individual impact in that process.
Well, and Mars' typical transit is, 70 days or so? So Mars went into Aries, June 27th or something like that? And so it's going to last till the end of the year or beginning of January 2021?
Yeah, we're in this one for the long haul. I mean, we have until January 2nd, I do believe, Mars leaves Aries. We're dealing with this accumulation of cardinal energy this year. The only way that I can describe it is from an esoteric perspective, considering the fact that this is the initiation of the cardinal cross, which the entire point or purpose to the cardinal cross is conscious unity, which involves our ability to kind of understand who we are in relation to the whole and why we are here and how we can give back to society or the collective as a whole. But yeah, I mean, Martian energy, Aries energy is sticking around for a long time before we make it to Taurus. It's going to be January 2020.
So interesting because, Capricorn rules the structures, rules the government, it's solid, it's foundation, it's, like a brick wall. And then we got Mars, which is like, full force ram bursting into this wall, and it's kind of like, how do we break down these structures that no longer serve the collective, no longer are helping others, where it's focused on a select few and changing that. And it's such a turbulent time, but it's so necessary too. And it's just interesting how everything is showing up with the politics and how it's so reflected in the astrology, how you could see that in the astrology.
Yeah, something I was just hearing this as you were speaking. My clairaudence kicked in relation to Libra season. I bet there'll be a lot of legal action that is taken in relation to things that have been going on in the world around us, but largely in the United States as a whole. Certain court cases that we'll see pushed potentially, like the Ghislaine case, Epstein, as well as I know that there's been numerous things in relation to Trump. And even, isn't Hillary in court right now as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I even wonder about the, all the child sex trafficking issues and things like that.
That's what I'm feeling too, definitely, is the child sex trafficking. I feel like that gained a lot of traction when we had the planets in Cancer as well, because Cancer came in from that nurturing perspective. But at the root of child sex trafficking is, again, the financial sector. It's the Pluto and the second house or Pluto return in the United States. So we're seeing that ugly, murky energy, that the way that we are loitering and the way that we are making money, that is by disgusting means, ultimately.
Yeah, and Libra season's what, September 22nd to October 22nd, 21st?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see that. And then just to know where you have these planets, where you have Libra in your chart and Cancer and Capricorn and Aries, and just, you know, being aware of the houses, and you can kind of get an idea of maybe some of the themes that you may experience, and just knowing that these are necessary experiences to push you forward, that as painful as some things may seem or be, sometimes you have to be pushed to assert yourself or to evaluate how you're controlling your temper or your anger, or where you're not, where you're giving in too much. Say you have Libra and you just kind of, you know, you don't really assert yourself and you just accept what other people say or do, you know, or Aries, you know, where you're not considering others. So it's going to be really interesting to really look back after this time period and see what kind of themes or what things occurred in our lives, and then be able to look at them from a chart perspective and see how it lines up.
Definitely, I agree. I think it'll be a really interesting retrograde period as a whole, because again, a lot is going to be put on hold in relation to action. During Mars RX periods, low energy is very possible. Again, low sex drive is very possible. But they also say not to take action on things that you are not sure you can complete either, because you're not going to have that drive behind you. I mean, actually, technically, you are going to have the drive behind you, but it's going the opposite direction. It's moving away from you. By the time that Mars goes direct in November, we're definitely going to see a lot of things being thrust into action, though. And I'm like really curious in relation to a lot of protests and inequality that has been kind of transpiring up until this point, because we've seen a lot of hostility, obviously. I mean, how many shootings have we been made aware of? And I mean on both sides, from both people who are protesting as well as people who are opposing the protests. I feel like it'll be really fascinating to have all of these squares brought up again to the Capricorn energy right before we have Saturn and Jupiter both moving into Aquarius in December. It's like this is the final hurrah of the structural stuff that we are in the process of changing. After this, we're going to gain some sort of traction in relation to humanitarianism, in relation to equality. Yes, Saturn will be there in Aquarius, but we have Jupiter there as well.
Yeah, and that's going to go direct, so that's exciting.
It is really exciting. We have Jupiter going direct this weekend, actually, on the 12th. And that should be very interesting because we've been dealing with this retrograde Capricorn energy for a long time. We have Saturn going direct on the 30th, too. So a lot is going to be moving forward in the process of this Mars energy moving backwards.
So with Jupiter going direct, what can people look forward to with this movement, this transit?
So we've been dealing with Jupiter retrograde since May, ultimately. And during Jupiter retrograde periods, all of that growth and expansion is geared inwards again. But with it being Capricorn, we're looking at our professionalism, our authority, our climb, our dedication as well, definitely. A lot of people are going to be experiencing some incredible payouts, ultimately. There's going to be a certain expansion that is being experienced by a lot of people, especially earth signs, people that are experiencing the trines to Jupiter.
Well, and then we also have Pluto going direct October 5th. So that went retrograde April 25th or so. So that's Pluto, I'm sure a lot of people probably had more awareness into some of their deep psychological traumas and issues come up to surface. Wouldn't that, do you think, or would it be, I mean, it's in Cap, but I'm sure that's from what I've realized, just bringing, it's like more in your face.
I love Pluto RX periods. As a Pluto RX person, I feel like once it goes direct, everybody goes power hungry and mad. But we're going to have the big 3 Capricorn, going direct within the next couple months. And there's going to be a lot of rewards that are granted to others during this time. And it's going to be on a professional scale. It's going to be in relation to things that we have dedicated ourselves to, definitely. But yeah, Pluto, people have done a lot more introspection in relation to the way that they handle power as well. I have a good feeling in relation to the end of December. I'm not exactly sure, or the end of this year, December, ultimately. I don't know if it's Jupiter and Aquarius related or what it is, but I just have this feeling that there's going to be some really good things that do occur on a collective level. Some really good rewards that are brought to the people.
Yeah, I hope it's kind of like this opportunity to just like breathe. I feel like we're kind of like, holding it all in. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. What are we doing next? I have no idea. I'm just hoping it's going to be this feeling of like, okay, all right, I got this. I got my feet on the ground. I think I can do this. And I think for the most part, people are doing their best and making the most of it from people I observe and people I know. And, but I really do hope that at the end of this year, at least the beginning of 2021, that we can kind of feel a little bit more settled than we've been feeling, because it's like every month you see those memes on, where it's like, now it's going to be these killer, cockroaches. I don't know what, it's just like the month of October. Now we're expecting fire ice balls, so I think hopefully by the end of the year or next year, we're going to kind of feel like, okay, we can get a little bit more
can
settled.
Breathe a little bit. Yeah, no, I mean, I wonder, I was thinking about this too with Mars retrograde. Mars is going to be retrograde during the elections. And I really wonder like how that will be in relation to rivalry kind of between the politicians. I mean, typically this is when you see, like the most dirt being brought, but Mars retrograde forces those things inward. So it just makes me wonder, like, is there some possibility that it could be like a little bit cleaner of a race potentially between Biden and Trump? Who knows? I mean, I don't want to bargain for that necessarily, but it's possible.
I mean, we can hope, and we can dream and wish that there would be that, or a little bit more balance between these energies. But yeah, it is going to be interesting. I mean, we're living through an incredible time. This is a time period that's going to be quite significant and written in history books, and so, but we knew that when Pluto and Saturn made their conjunction, their direct conjunction in January of 2020, people that study astrology, they knew that it was going to be a big shift and a lot of changes. We just didn't know how drastic and how big these changes would be.
Oh yeah, this is the time of the goat, definitely. we're exposing the ugly in society, and we're trying to get the good guys, or I guess as good as we can possibly get, in charge, in higher positions. But there's a lot of restructuring, and there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes as well that we're not even aware of necessarily, that we can only speculate about. It's a really interesting time. It makes me wonder when you say that about history books, like what are we actually looking at history book wise? Like what are these kids' history books going to be like in the future? Are they going to be ebooks? Are they going to be friggin' holograms? Like
well, yeah, I mean, Age of Aquarius, and then Saturn's going to be in Aquarius, and then Pluto leaves Capricorn, what is it, 2024?
Yes, I do believe it is. Is it 23 or 24? I'm horrible with dates. Really, I swear I know energy up and down, but I'm absolutely horrible when it comes to pinpointing exact dates. I have the memory of a goldfish, so it's Neptune in my third house.
Well, I think it's around the time period, and then it will go into Aquarius. And it'll be interesting because right now with Pluto and Capricorn, it's the shadow side of structure, government, all these things being exposed, and the shadow of conservatism. So it'll be interesting to see, is it going to be the shadow of liberalism during that time period? Is it going to be like going from one extreme to the next? So we got that. And then, but yeah, with education and information in Aquarius, and we're moving into this technological age, and even schools, children are now forced to go to school online and learn how to be able to learn in this new environment. It's shifting, and so how is education going to change? And this is where the opportunity for innovative technology to come forth too, so it's maybe necessary that there was this shift. And I also wonder, for socialization purposes, how is that going to affect these new children and this generation of children?
Oh yeah, it's going to be so different for them. It's crazy to think about. Who knows what will happen after all of this stuff in relation to the pandemic and kind of what it has shifted and changed. My son just started school this week online. And I just wonder, after they make this transition and teachers become acquainted with this atmosphere, whether or not elements of this will stick around post-pandemic. Will there be virtual days? Will there be as much in-person teaching? Are they going to change things around due to this? But one thing I was going to say about you talking about Pluto and Aquarius is that Elon is going to change some things. He's already got his brain chips in beta testing right now with pigs and stuff. Those brain chips are going to change the world. That man has the potential to vastly transform our tech use as a whole, is a good way of putting it, by introducing it to the mind, ultimately, in a very literal sense. And I feel like that's going to be a major facet of Pluto in Aquarius, because I really do believe that these chips are going to be brought out into the open. And so is a lot of other tech and a lot of other tech advancements.
Ooh, I wonder if virtual reality too, how much more advanced it's going to get. And, we're going to have maybe incorporate that in education, where people are having their virtual reality school with each other and they're feeling like they're there with each other, but they're really in their own home. That's interesting.
Oh, that would be crazy. Oh,
and then you go into relationships, and then there's these virtual reality relationships that people are having. This is something that
there's a lot of potential there. And you know what? It's crazy. As a Mercury and Aquarius person, you would think that I'm here for this, but really the only thing that I can think of when I think about Pluto moving into Aquarius is that I'm heading for the fucking mountains and I am leaving. I'm going off grid completely. I do love the thought of tech advancing, but at the same time, with the way that it appears to be advancing, it's going to cause a lot of uprise before it creates a calm, is a good way of putting it. Because with the advancement of technology, we will have to advance as human beings. And a lot of human beings have not done the spiritual work to make that a pretty process.
Well, yeah, it's just, and that's why right now the collective fishbowl is being cleaned out. So you got all the murky stuff being brought to the surface. So everything's cloudy and gross looking. And so it looks pretty hopeless, but it just needs to be cleaned out. But it's a long process. It's not like major shift is going to happen overnight or in 1 year. So we're in this for the long haul, but that's where, when you're aware of this and you're focusing on your own spiritual journey and going within, that anything that you're confronted with, you can find a way to navigate that with as much peace or forgiveness or introspection as possible, or just even being aware of, okay, this is triggering me. How do I work through this and have as much compassion for yourself as possible, because this is scary. And we've never gone through this, at least this lifetime. So consciously, we have no idea how to navigate through this. Our parents didn't have to navigate through this. I mean, they had their own experiences and, war and Vietnam and all that, but still, this is a huge shift. I mean, we could see a whole new global currency. We could see the government's collapse. Like we have no idea. So that's why it always goes back to yourself.
It does. And you saying that reminds me of exactly what I said at the very beginning about this Mars RX period. It always begins with you. It begins with that I am, that self. And in that self, you learn to relate to other people, which in all technical terms is Libra energy. And we have Mercury in Libra now.
Yeah, so so that's interesting, because Mercury in Libra. How do you explain Mercury in Libra?
Mercury in Libra. I mean, don't you think you would be better at explaining Mercury in Libra? It is your Mercury sign.
Well, let me make up my mind and let you know what I think.
Mercury in Libra is all about, from an esoteric perspective, at the root, the key is being able to decipher divine truth, ultimately. There's the ability to balance and weigh your options, and to, as you just said, to think about things, to think things through and not have to make rush or rash decisions, ultimately. And I think it is important to note, too, that we have Chiron opposing Mercury. I think that opposition is exact tomorrow. So there's a lot of mental healing that's going on right now in relation to us, in relation to our partnerships. But, Mercury in Libra, you guys are intellectual. You are airy. You are, sure, a little bit indecisive on occasion, but very pleasant and very peace-minded, and very much so considering others.
Yeah, definitely. It is weighing the options. There can be a tendency to change your mind often, or say, well, I want to do this. Well, no, I'll do this. Or what do you think? No, so it's a lot of that. But it is, with the hope that both parties or others can be considered as well, and so that everybody is happy. Everybody gets a fair opportunity, or that there is balance between self and other.
Definitely. But I think that is something to really point out, because I know this is going to air tomorrow. Tomorrow, that opposition will be exact. We could be a little bit mentally raw as a collective. There could be issues of hostility kind of going up against those peaceful notions and the ways that our actions have ultimately hurt ourselves. This is, however, one of the final Chiron frustrations until Libra season, so that's a benefit. We have Venus and Leo as well right now, which is going to be coming up to trine Chiron in Aries in a little bit next week. So this is kind of this last healing period. Then we got a couple weeks that we get to breathe a little bit.
Until September.
I can't even explain it, the feelings that I'm getting in relation to October this year.
October, not September. We're in September, see.
Oh, well, I mean, it's late September. You're right. Late September is the dawning of Libra season, but I just have this crazy feeling about October with the Chiron oppositions, and then we're going to have the Martian oppositions and the squares to the Capricorn. I don't know about October. I don't know.
I'm so excited for my solar return chart.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild year.
Anybody that from today until November 12th will have Mars retrograde in their solar return chart. So they will experience this internalized Martian energy for the entire year. So it's good. You're going to search your will and find healthy and constructive ways to deal with aggression and anger and fears that are there that need to be faced, so you can no longer carry that baggage with you. And it's going to be fun. And that's my pep talk to myself and anybody else that's going to have a birthday. from that time period.
You can do this. You got this. Promise.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about something lighter, and the fact that next week we get to experience the most beautiful part of Virgo season. I've literally been looking forward to this entire time. And that is 3 lovely trines that are being formed to the sun. The one to Jupiter just passed an exact point. But we're going to have Pluto and Saturn both trine the sun in Virgo next week. And that should bring some really beautiful results. Definitely. We're seeing rewards for hard work and dedication. We're seeing a transformation as well of authority in public stature and professionalism. Next week should be nice and flowing smoothly. With that, we do have Venus squaring Uranus next week, though, and that could be a little bit unpredictable. But at the same time, again, those trines, there's something with those trines.
That's why I love astrology. It's like you could always make a holiday out of a transit. You know, it's like, oh my God, yes, we're going to have this trine. This is something to look forward to. And the power of your mind to make it be so is immense. You know, so it's like, let's focus on some of the good things coming. Yes, there's a lot of heavy. Yes, there's a lot of uncertainty. Yes, there's a lot of darkness and shadow and, you know, all that stuff. But then we have these other things that are here for us to feel like, you know what, you're going to get the rewards for this hard work. You're going to get the benefit of being able to focus on this energy and work through your stuff. So, yay.
Well, yeah, and from a celebratory perspective, if we're talking, you know, astrological holidays, we have the new moon in Virgo next week, and it's literally going to be exactly trine Saturn. So that's one to look forward to. It's on the 17th. It's at 25 degrees Virgo. I have a good feeling about that one, too.
Oh, we'll have to discuss that next week in the Sabian, and then we're going to do a hypnosis event for that new moon in Virgo, which we haven't determined what that will be, but it's going to be exciting for sure.
It will. Virgo is something I'm very acquainted with, although it is a distant memory.
Lovely south node of yours.
Yes, and it will be conjunct my south node as well. What other transits did we have that I was going to bring up?
Neptune is retrograde right now, right?
Yes, Rachel was asking me about sleep disturbances. And I think there's a couple of things that could potentially point to sleep disturbances. One of them being Virgo season and the Virgo energy and the sky opposing Neptune. Because Neptune is what we're typically looking at from the standpoint of dreams and sleep and stuff like that. And yeah, we have, what is the sun at right now? I think it's 18 degrees. I do believe, I'm pulling up my chart right now. Yes, it is 18 degrees. So it's tomorrow, pretty much. That opposition will be exact. Sleep tonight could be weird. Sleep tomorrow could be weird. Sleep could probably even be weird for the rest of the week. But I do wonder from the standpoint of the United States, if the South Node being positioned in the United States 12th has anything to do with those weird dreams or sleep as well. The other thing to point out too, though, is that the Neptune square to the North and South Node in Gemini, Sagittarius, is also tightening. We're within 5 degrees now. So that's another thing that could be messing with sleep. The way that we are moving from a fated perspective is a little bit hazy, and that could be making its way into our sleeping life as well, not just our waking life. Of course, there's confusion there too.
Yeah, it feels like there's like this overactive mind and you're exhausted, but you can't go to sleep. Like, have you ever been so tired that you can't sleep? That's how it's been feeling for me. I don't know if
I felt a lot of that too. And I wake up at random times. And I thought that was just being pregnant, but I have a lot of other people that are telling me the same thing, that they're waking up at weird times in the night. It's like they can fall asleep, but they can't stay asleep.
Yeah, it's like 3, 4 in the morning. It's like, oh, all right, I guess we're up. But yeah, so that's interesting. And hopefully, you know, it'll pass and we can find a way to work through this or find the energy through this period. But yeah, that's really interesting with that opposition.
I do kind of wonder though, is it December about? I apologize. I'm like looking up charts right at this very moment. Yeah. So around December, we're going to have I apologize. It looks like it'll be January 2021. But December, you'll begin to feel it applying the square from Neptune to the North Node and South Node, the nodal axis in general. I wonder what the heck that's going to bring.
Can I just go to the mountains now?
Might want to, because that one could be really confusing and it could bring some very confused messages. And Lord help us, literally, emphasis on the word Lord, because the South Node is also involved in Sagittarius. So we could have some really weird people of faith step into. No offense, people of faith. Just please don't tout your messages in early January because they're probably bullshit.
I'm just going to find a monastery and hang out with some monks.
I don't know if that's where you want to go, though, because that's like Sagittarius energy. You might be even in worse shape. You just go to the mountains on your own. Go do it by yourself.
I'm going to go isolate myself in the mountains while this Martian energy is bringing up issues of fear. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, yeah. That was another thing that we did talk about, me and Rachel as well, is the fact that, especially with the harsh squares that are going to be made to Mars from Pluto and Saturn, this Mars RX period also could bring up issues of safety, definitely personal safety, and our ability to kind of exert Martian energy to protect ourselves as well, definitely.
All I know is we are going to be different people in 2021, and that's exciting.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think that the world is going to vastly change by then, and we revolutionaries are here for a reason.
You incarnated on the earth at this time for a divine purpose. You must stand in your power. That's my pretend channel message.
I'm telling you, those brain chips are going to do something. So if you hear this, Elon, I would be willing to work with you, but you're not going to put a chip in my brain, okay?
No, not having chips. No, thank you.
Because some of us are already telepaths. Some of us don't need that added inconvenience.
God, no, we don't want chips. I mean, I'm sure in some ways there could be benefits of having a chip. I just don't want it for myself. If anybody else wants to volunteer and let us know how that is, that's great. But no, thank you.
I think that from a health-related perspective, there are going to be a lot of benefits. But I do wonder from the standpoint of telepathy and brain-to-brain, conceptual telepathy was Elon's entire thing. It's just it's gonna open a lot of can of worms. Like, I'm telling you, from somebody who already experiences telepathy, hearing other people's thoughts and not being able to communicate back with them is exhausting. It's literally exhausting. And so there will be a lot of tweaks and things that need to be. That's part of Pluto and Aquarius, because you're not going to have anywhere to hide within your mind even.
Well, and I mean, we have Neptune in Pisces till 2026. So I forget when it went into Pisces. It's a long transit, but this is Neptune. Pisces is ruled by Neptune. So a lot of people are having more of these spiritual experiences and coming into their intuitive gifts. And so even though there's going to be more technological advances and things like that, there's also going to be people that are realizing the power that is within them, that they can connect with their soul and connect to others. And so it's just finding that balance and not going off the deep end, going to the extreme, finding the solid ground and being able to bring this awareness into reality without floating and kind of being off in la la land.
No, definitely. I mean, right now, Neptune and Pisces, in my opinion, from an evolutionary perspective, this is the precursor to whatever the hell it is that occurs in 2044 when Pluto goes into Pisces. Whether that be we literally expand our light bodies to the point that we're like ultra sage gurus, or we kill our fucking selves. I'm not really sure what we're going to do, but there will be a major spiritual transformation by 2044. Not 2044 specifically, but by the time that Pluto leaves Pisces, ultimately.
Maybe aliens will come and then they will take us away to another planet in another dimension. And okay, never mind. Just kidding, I don't know. But it just feels like there's going to be something crazy like that.
Oh, no, it's going to have to be something crazy like that. I feel like a lot of us spiritualists, probably the stuff that we were told we were crazy for at this point in time for talking about is the shit that's actually going to occur. But we're going to be so old by then. We're just going to be sitting there like old as fuck with our teeth falling out like we fucking told you so. Take me to your leader.
My great-grandfather lived to be 113. I somehow feel that I am destined to live to be really old, which is fine. Maybe I really wanted to get it right, but it's just kind of like, as a triple Scorpio, I'm like, fuck, man, this is like, I don't want to be 100 years old and going through this. Maybe by then I'll be like, in a rainbow light body. You never know. Maybe. But yeah, it's we are going to be really old, and it'll be interesting to see if we're, cognizant of it or how we experience it. And maybe we do get to experience some bliss. And that's the hope. That's the work. That's what we're here for.
we can only hope, really. We have to hold on to that Jupiter energy and just keep on seeing a brighter day.
Hey, I got enough planets in Libra and Venus and Neptune. They're like, yes, we can do it. I mean, that's what you have to do. You have to have some sort of vision, some sort of hope. So, and that's what we hold on to. Even in spite of what's going on, we gotta look for the good, because there's always good. There's the duality of life, and with every bad, there's good. With everything that occurs, there's a lesson, there's an opportunity, there's growth, and yes, we're going to do this. We're going to make it to the light.
And you know what, guys? The entire purpose of all of this is to place that focus on the I am energy, and for you to understand that it begins with you. You are one individual piece in this collective whole. You have a purpose, you have a mission, and you are here to help us all move forward into a more beautiful, brighter tomorrow, ultimately.
You are one drop in the collective ocean of oneness and love.
And we have faith in you. We have lots of faith in you.
So do your freaking work and stop projecting. Sorry.
And I think that's about it for today.
Hope you guys enjoyed our show. I love you, Lydia. It was a pleasure doing this with you, as always. And may you sleep well, have pleasant dreams, and find something.
If you can't, do not deny yourself of the beauties of Benadryl or Unisom. They help a lot.
And coffee is great.
Coffee is great too. Bye, guys.
Bye.